Awake, avast, hold tight your buns, if buns you do hold dear, for time has come to wake and run and not give way to fear. Beyond this room are 1,000 rooms, outside of them still more. Behind each door, on every floor, danger, danger, evermore. Stranger, hark, the traps galore may kill you whilst you do explore, to free yourself from this tomb and never more re-enter. Find the room amidst the rooms that lies exactly center. And that is how we're kicking this episode off, with a little bit of, what is that, iambic pentameter, I think?
I suppose so. I'm not entirely sure.
A little poem. But welcome, everybody, back to another rousing episode of Never Ending Adventure. This is your host, Diggity DJ Netty P, coming at you live on a Sunday afternoon.
And Russell Tyndall, your other host. And Ned, this is the intro to Mystery Dungeon, which we're talking about today. Season 5, Episode 8 of Adventure Time. I gotta say, I don't know if any of this matters. I thought that was such an interesting way to start this episode, but talking about 1,000 rooms and like, clearly there aren't 1,000 rooms, or at least there aren't 1,000 options, because Ice King and I've got some issues with this episode, or at least maybe theories, some ideas about this episode, because clearly there aren't 1,000 options, because he chose who he wanted to bring because of what they would bring in order to solve each of the riddles throughout the dungeon. And he could not have predicted 1,000 different ways. He had to have seen the exact same path. But then also, how did he see that path? He didn't create this dungeon. How did he know who he needed to choose? I don't know, man. What is happening in this episode?
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that, okay, so the ancient sleeping magi of life-giving technically is a wizard. I can tell you that. That's a little bit of a spoiler. Not much of a spoiler, but like kind of sits in the world of wizards. So in my theory,
he's coming back. He's coming back at some point. I'm guessing.
We get a few more episodes with him in it, and he's actually a hilarious character. They make him a lot more like daunting and scary in this episode, but he's kind of a goofy, like has even a goofy voice and everything like that too.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, what I would think is that because Ice King has access to Wizard City, that there's probably some knowledge or some lore, or at least even some buddies that are like friends of the Magi, that are like, oh yeah, like you literally, there's like, you can get to him in only 4 rooms if you do it. But these 4 rooms, like you have to.
So he's got cheat codes. He's got cheat codes.
I think he for sure has cheat codes. Because I don't foresee him also like having gone into the dungeon and pre-mapped everything and then gotten out either.
Dang.
Because of, this is the whole like cube mentality. Like you're not supposed to, like once you're in, you can't. It's like only one path to get out, kind of thing.
Oh, I got you. So they truly, and I guess this does talk about how you're trapped once you enter through each door. Like you can't go backwards. So
yeah.
So there is a little bit of truth to this passage, how they started this episode out. But I don't know. I read it a couple of times and I was just like, it's not worth me diving deeper into this passage. But it sounds cool and it plays for a really neat intro. And I do love how the characters each, we'll talk about the unlikely group of B and C rank characters that Ice King chose for this.
Up. Yeah.
But like, I love that they go like one person at a time, and then they're like, Ice King, come on, pay attention. Like you're supposed to read the next part of the passage, kind of like Bible study or something.
Yeah.
Which I always hated. Y'all know I don't like reading out loud. I hate that I read on this podcast. It, drives me crazy sometimes. But for whatever reason, that just it's a little flashback, PTSD maybe, of like sitting in a Bible study and having to read like the next couple lines of speak that is not spoken like anymore, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It makes it awkward. But also, I mean, like that's a cool part that you even point out. They read the passage. He's not pay attention. He's writing in his book. And you're like, oh, is he, initially you think he's writing down what the wall is saying. But really what he's doing is, I think, because he's got Fiona and Cake in his head 24/7. It's a living, breathing universe, as we like learned through the Fiona and Cake series.
Do you
that
think
he's
it's
actually
constantly playing in his head?
I
Is
think
that
it's
what you're saying?
constantly, well, it is constantly
Dude.
like happening in his head,
It's
unless
true.
and so I think he's like last minute,
Oof.
because he's going to bring their story to life. He just keeps on writing down like what's
Yeah.
happening in real time, because he's like, oh God, like there's more part of the story. I got to write it down before I like throw the book into the flames of life or whatever.
Yeah. Dude, that with wizard eyes, no wonder he's insane.
Yeah,
I
like
could not even imagine. But Prismo did him dirty, dude. Prismo did him so dirty. And of course, sorry, y'all. We are recording this post watching Fiona and Cake, even though this is my first time through Adventure Time. Of course, we covered Fiona and Cake. You know that.
Yeah.
We're 131 episodes in.
Yeah. No, I think
deep into this show.
It bodes well that we're kind of going to be getting deeper into Ice King's Fiona and Cake stuff, because watching through the show the first time, you're like, oh, what's going on with Fiona and Cake? Is it real? Is it not? Is it in his dreamscape? Are they figments of his imagination? And so it's kind of nice that, because that was one of the few loose ends, ambiguous things from Adventure Time, that you can watch those Ice King specific or Fiona and Cake specific episodes and kind of realize like it's not just confusing anymore.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I think I would have well for you.
I would have in the past had different theories about this episode simply because of the fact of how this episode ends, not knowing what we do know now. And I think that'll play into a theory that I have later on. But let's just start back where we were talking about these characters. Ned, we got Tree Trunks, which I don't know. Every time she's in an episode, I just have all sorts of questions of what's going on and why we got Tree Trunks. But we got Tree Trunks, we got Shelby, we got Ice King, we got Nepter, which have not seen Nepter in the longest time.
In a hot minute.
I had forgotten about him. And you know who else forgot about him?
Ice King.
Ice King did. Ice King, his Ice Cream, his father totally forgot about Nepter, sorry, just like how Finn and Jate did in Too Hot to Handle, or Hot to the Touch. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Too Hot to Handle and Hot to the Touch, when they were playing hide and seek for 15 months and he was just hiding the entire time.
Yeah.
Totally forgot about him.
Well, it's like, I get it. Like Nepter is like kind of this annoying character, and he always calls Ice King like Poppy, but it's funny in my opinion. He's like the sweetest, most like intentioned character ever, and he just really, again, kind of going on the Adventure Time theme of the show of like bad father figures, that he has this non-existing relationship with his father that he thinks is like, aren't you proud of me, Poppy? Check out my sweet mods, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and he's constantly seeking the approval of Ice King. And even when Finn and Jake at the end of the episode are like up on the hill, that Nepter doesn't even like hardly acknowledge them. He's immediately going back to the Ice King to comfort him. So he like, I don't know. It's Nepter is voiced by Andy Milonakis too, and I don't know if you know who Andy Milonakis is.
Yeah, I do. I mean, of course, the peas in my head, but don't call me a pea head, right?
Yeah, exactly. Kind of the first to kind of create like a YouTube viral video type thing before there was a YouTube viral videos.
Yeah, I think he like had a TV show off of it or whatever, which is where that. He had like an
on
my head thing comes from.
MTV. It was like a skit show mixed with like YouTube videos and like real world prank type stuff, because he was like a 30-year-old that looked like he was like 14.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I say that to be like, there's something kind of just like annoying about Nepter's voice that's like he didn't get my lovely of the episode.
Oh yeah. I don't blame you at all, man. Nepter is a tough one. Let's just keep in mind he's the never-ending pie-throwing robot, is what Nepter stands for. Which, man, it comes into play so much. All right, let's just do it. My first theoretically speaking of this episode, is definitely gonna have to be that Nepter could have just gotten Ice King through the entire dungeon on his own.
Probably so. That's probably the beauty of this episode, is that his son probably could have gotten him through every room at the end of the day.
There was no need for anyone. I mean, first off, like you got some cool ass new mods, which is great. But you go to the rat room, Nepter has pies. You go to the steam room, fish love bread. pies have bread. Nepter has pies.
Yeah, they could have used pies as the bait.
Totally. The monster room. Okay, well, lemon pies to the monster's eyes. Nepter has pies.
I didn't even think about that.
Esoteric encryption system room. Again, Nepter has pies. He freaking solved that, even though
he's got pies. And honestly, I would imagine his mods, if they modded him to be any bit like BMO, he would have similar software, maybe? I don't know, but he is like brought to life by magic at the end of the day. So I don't know if it's like really software or not, but we saw it still worked at the end of the day.
Yeah, the 007 rope thing that he used to save tree trunks at the beginning of the episode was pretty sick. So I am very curious what other mods he has, because that was freaking cool. And then finally, like, I think there's an argument to be made for Lemongrab in the first room because of the map, because of his ability. Oh, by the way, Lemongrab's in this episode because of the map and his ability to just memorize it forever. But and Lemongrab even says when they fall down the trapdoor, which he opened, he says that they weren't, or sorry, that they, what's he said? That this isn't where they were supposed to go. Like the map lied to him. Yeah. So I think that's totally perchance that he ended up like in a place where they could continue, which again leads me back to my freaking argument.
It's the argument.
How the heck did Ice King know this? Like,
I know.
If it's the wrong room, according to the map, I don't know. It's so annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying that like for some reason Ice King knew the second room was going to be needing pies to get the mouse out. However, it's like, well, how did you know if Lemongrab was going to memorize the map and go? But see, here's the thing. That's the room that Lemongrab thought they were supposed to, but it's not based on the map. So Ice King knows
that's what you're saying. Okay.
Probably that the map is not right. So he is bringing Lemongrab more along to have gotten them through the first door without any suspicion, and also beat the eyes monster that they needed something that would like. Yeah. Obviously, that monster exploded into like 1,000 pieces for getting lemon juice in his eyes.
Yeah, his vital essence or whatever.
The vital essence, which let's just say that's my tops of the episode.
That's like, your tops?
Okay. My tops is when he gets squeezed, he's freaking out, and he's just like, my juices, my final juices. And I was like, oh my gosh. I have it. It makes me laugh because I think it was just a few months ago. I think I saw that on Instagram, like a clip of that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like hilarious. Like, here's what you need to say to your partner at the climax of a nice lovemaking session.
No.
Sorry for anybody that is not as adults listening to this podcast.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. This is a tangent, and I apologize. This will be quick. We were listening to Good Mythical Morning, or watching Good Mythical Morning the other day. And I was reminded at the time that apparently when that first happened with Link, which it's Rhett and Link, it's their YouTube show or whatever, with his wife, because he waited till marriage, he said it's free at the end of it because it was such an amazing thing that it didn't cost anything to do.
Yeah, no, but see, that's just saying my juices, my vital juices would be fantastic.
So bad. It's so bad.
But that's why, along with the tops, I would say that literally, I think Lemongrab got my lovely of the episode.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Yeah, that's
same here. Same here.
I was okay. Good. I thank you. I was afraid that you were going to go, oh no, Lemongrab gets my most punchable. But the absolute
Why is he your lovely?
It's all of his dialogue that he delivers. One, I think it's just hilarious. But two, it's really cool to see Lemongrab in this episode because we've seen him kind of only like causing chaos in the Candy Kingdom, kind of being a little bit of an antagonist. He's always kind of going against Finn or against Princess Bubblegum, even though it is his true nature. This time he is just being himself. But he doesn't have like bad intentions the whole time. He wants to get out just as much as everybody else. And so,
hold on. I know he's my lovely, but I'm thinking about it a little bit. And you're saying he doesn't have bad intentions, and he did jump the cannibalism pretty quick. He almost immediately was like, "Yo, Ice King, How do you taste, bud? Like mild or spicy?
Yeah. Well, so there's a couple of callbacks just even to that line specifically.
Okay.
That I think it was either it might be in a future one. It might have been in Too Young, that he like references that he doesn't know where food comes from.
Oh.
And so it's still
But
kind
that's
of,
right. Yeah.
it goes along with, he's like, I don't think he realizes it's cannibalism. He's like, make yourself into food. I don't think he equivalates that, like, if Ice King were to do that, it would be killing Ice King. Like, so I still don't think Lemongrab has a grasp on food. But remember,
because that was Peppermint Butler was feeding him, and he's just like, "You're my servant. Give me food," and that's basically what it is. The tree trunks, and so he calls. Okay, he again another reason why I'm kind of backtracking my lovely here. He calls tree trunks a slave, and that's super not cool.
It's not cool, but again, you can't hate him because like he's like Princess Bubblegum's antithesis. She's sweet, he's sour. She's nice, he's mean, and that's just the nature that he's been created in. And so the only thing he knows is that he is the Earl of Lemongrab, and everybody else is subservient to him. Instead of like living in a free democratic society, it's the opposite of that. That everything he kind of views as healthily functioning is a servile society, and that everybody serves him.
I can't. I was gonna give it to him because one, he's called by Tree Trunks Lemon Carb, which is awesome because in Fiona and Cake, the human form of Lemongrab is called the Lemon Carb or the Lemon Carbs, which that was cool.
Call back to this episode, really.
Which is crazy, right? And then an infallible recall, which is what he has where he memorizes the entire map immediately. So I was digging it, but I just remembered again, he eats a pie out of a giant rat's mouth, and
he just can't socks it in the face, and then no question just goes and he starts eating it.
Yeah, I'm so out on Lemongrab. It's not even a debate anymore. I know who my new lovely is.
Okay, new lovely.
We got to let's go to the steamy room. And we'll talk. I don't know why that's what I called it, the steamy room.
The steamy room. Not the steam room, not the giant fish room, the steamy room.
Yeah. The steam room. So that's where I'm going to say, Shelby easily is the lovely of this episode.
Yes, Shelby was the close second behind Lemongrab for me.
It initially was the tops for me when Tree Trunks was like, how are we going to worm our way out of this one? Just this fishy situation or whatever. And, of course, it's like you almost could have had idea. Yeah, you almost could have had a moment. Shelby even says that, doesn't he? Yeah. They could have had a moment where all the eyes kind of like look over and look at Shelby as if just to say like, we're going to use you as bait, dude. But the idea is to use Tree Trunks as bait. Which is so funny because if Shelby had been used, Shelby would have died. Like Shelby
wouldn't have been able to use the knife to get out of the fish's stomach. So that's kind of dark. I mean, that means that like
I've gone
Ice
fishing.
Ice King was inherently
like
Ice King
Shelby.
Shelby was the only one that probably would have been sacrificed on this mission at the end of the day.
Shelby's gonna sacrifice himself. I mean, it's.
I love so there's two moments that Shelby almost got my backup lovely of the episode was that like when they're lowering Tree Trunks into like the fish's pond, steamy pond, Shelby just is like, yeah, everything's gonna be all right. I think everything's just totally kind of just
totally cool,
chill vibes. And then at the always a second moment when I was like, I was supposed to use Shelby as the bait, and he's like, no way, man. No way am I doing that. And then
so that's kind of what I was getting at too, man.
Yeah, the last line of the episode.
What is it?
The last line of the episode when they're like, oh, what could be sadder than the Ice King? And Shelby goes, me watching this.
Yeah.
I was like, it's so funny.
That was a good one. But I definitely think that scene where, and I was going to point out the fact that like when you're going fishing, you never get your worm back. So of course, the worm is going to die. Yeah, you even lose your worm just by like hitting some weeds or something. So there's no way Shelby was coming back out of that water. But yeah, I lost it when the Ice King was saying that he brought everyone into the dungeon or whatever, and Shelby should have been the one for the bait. And that was totally my tops of the episode. Just Shelby just saying, yeah, but no thanks. And
but no thanks.
He just outsmarted that situation in a sense. He came to the conclusion that he was going to be bait way before anyone else did. And he goes, Tree Trunks, you got to do this. Like you got to be on the edge or beyond the end of our reel. And
but yeah, so like that was like Tree Trunks, and it's a cool thing that like it leads up to kind of her like monologue at the end when they finally fall down like the spiral staircase, and when she cuts herself out of the fish, she's like, wow, man, that was heavy. I've been reborn. And then she goes on this long monologue because she's like, yeah, I just basically almost sacrificed myself. I've been reborn. She's like, I'm super nice and like trustworthy. And then what she says, is just stop selling all these bibs and give it straight. So she kind of has this moment where she's like, I'm not going to be nice. I'm not going to sit back and let other people convince me to kill myself anymore. I've been reborn. She's been reborn a lot more of a hero, kind of like what Finn and Jake were trying to do with her. Remember, they wanted to make her adventurer Tree Trunks in the first season, 4th or 5th episode.
Well, I mean, what had happened essentially was that Ice King let it slip, right? That he meant to bring BMO, and then that's when Tree Trunks goes on that monologue. I was like, dude, something's fishy, and they all, but she definitely did a good job standing up for herself. I just kind of, honestly, I blacked out essentially when the monologue happened because I could not care, less for Tree Trunks, and I was just like, whatever. She's so self-righteous and all this stuff. But Ice King revealed, that he knocked everyone out. Again, I just don't understand how he knew who he was supposed to grab. I guess your theory makes sense to me with it being like just a common knowledge between the wizarding folk. But even then, it's so goofy to me.
It is goofy. And that's again, kind of like why I like this episode is it's got that goofiness to it. It's got kind of that adventure time. And I'll get into like my first deep thought number 1 of the episode, because it sticks with the episode. My second deep thought's going to pertain more to like a little bit of psychology stuff with like other movies. But deep thought number 1 here is that, okay, so we've got our B and C list characters, except for maybe Ice King. I think he's not really considered the B list or whatever, which is a reference back to All the Little People, which was what, 3 episodes ago? Yeah, 3 episodes ago. And what's funny is that if you look at the end of this episode, Finn and Jake are standing on the hill. It's the same sunset, like same color, sky in the background as when Jake and Finn were sitting there and Magic Man slips the little people into Finn's pocket. But did you notice that Magic Man comes out of the ground in the same like semicircle hole as they come out in the end, where the ground opens up in like a semicircle? So
wait, what?
Yeah, so at the very end of this episode, like remember when Magic Man sneaks up on Finn and Jake, it like opens up a little semicircle in the ground.
From all the little people. Sorry, I wasn't tracking. I got you.
And so I remember us talking in the episode of All the Little People. Our theory was that he somehow tapped into like another universe, and he's got like these people from another universe. Well, what if like Magic Man basically created like a bunch of voodoo dolls that he like was like, okay, I'm tapping into a different temporal timeline frequency. But then those little people could move around because he went to the ancient sleeping magi of life-giving and threw those little people into the fire. And that's why they were like alive in our world at the same time. So that's just the ground opening up in that portion opens up like, oh my gosh, like I think that Magic Man knew about the ancient sleeping magi.
But can you use it more than once? I guess is my issue with that, because he uses the flames and then all of a sudden the flames disappear and then the ancient sleeping magi of life-giving like wakes up.
Yeah. So what you realize is that, and sorry, this is kind of spoiler drop, is that the magi's powers are like everything he touches comes to life.
Okay, so it can be reused, and that's just he just happens to be there for that time being for some reason.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Well, I wonder to what degree, because obviously the fan fiction that is thrown into the flames kind of turns into what I would describe as like some Mickey Mouse sounding, Barty guy. I don't know.
Right
he
at me, right
definitely
at me.
reminds me a lot of like someone's bad impressions, our bad impressions of Mickey Mouse is kind of what it sounded like.
Which we literally did, I think, like 1 or 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, for sure. I need to express this before we get past this moment. In that the esoteric encryption system scene, essentially, Neptr does, as he does in every room, or could have done in every room, throws a pie and saves the day. And Ice King hugs him and calls him his son, which is a sweet moment. But then he says, "The grand prize of my loins," and
the grand prize of my
he gets my most punchable for that line alone.
Just for that line, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could care less that he kidnapped these, B and C, the tierage characters. That's fine. But it's just the worst line. It really is the worst line of this whole episode. Yeah, the grand prize of my loins.
It's like the fact that like it hurts me again because like Nepture's so sweet and it just hurts me to be like, yeah, Ice King's now taking credit for him being the prize of his loins, and he's like, dude, you didn't even know he existed. Plus, he's not even of your loins. He's like a proxy of your magic. Like, come on, it's so gross.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Well, let's get to this. Is pretty cool. This will be like my true, theoretically speaking, of the episode. It was actually more Allie's than my own, but I just loved it, and I had to share it on the podcast.
Okay, yeah.
So we're watching this. Of course, the ancient sleeping magi of life giving. That whole scene, right? And it's revealed, which awesome reveal. I love the fact that it's all about the fan fiction, the Fiona and Cake fan fiction. It couldn't be better timing. I mean, we just watched it. We just talked about it the whole series, so it's super fun. But Allie from a different room goes, perhaps this is Ice King's subconscious telling him that there was an issue with Fiona and Cake's universe. Like perhaps secretly, the fact that he had to bring the fan fiction down here to try and bring it to life was like some way of him going, oh my gosh, I need to try and save this universe or bring it, like make it real, make it canonized. Because in which case, like, bringing the fan fiction is his way of doing it, or the only way that he can think to save this universe is to try and make it canon before, as we know in the Fiona and Cake miniseries, it becomes canonized. I thought that was so fascinating that like maybe it was his subconscious all along that was like irking him to do this, and it wasn't just well, I want them to be real. It's like, oh well, their universe is not canon because of Prismo, and it should get destroyed. But then like I don't know, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's like something about the Ice King's nature. Again, it's a cool like more of like a Simon nature of like protecting them. That something in his mind is like this universe is real, and his nature is like it needs to be either brought to life or just like saved. And like he's got obviously a huge compelling part of the Ice King story, not even Simon's story, is to like save them, right? And so it's really cool that again there's just something about it where he's just he can't even remember that who Neptune is, but he's like so driven on this like mission to bring them to life. And a lot of it, I think, maybe from the Ice King perspective, is to like bring them to life to just prove that he's not crazy, that this is not just a story, that this is not just kind of like what Neptune kind of says to him, oh, like it's in your imagination land. Take me, like you've taken me there to imagination land. And I think Ice King wants to bring them to life to prove to everybody that like, hey, I'm pretty crazy, but like this is really happening. I'm not just like quote unquote making this up,
I totally agree. I think it's really, it was really cool, especially having just seen Fiona and Cake get into the end of this episode, and that conversation that you're referencing between Neptune and Ice King, where the characters, Neptune is essentially saying like, remember, like the characters will always be real in your mind. And so Ice King goes in daydreams and says to Fiona, like, oh, Fiona, can a dream be as real as waking life? And then Neptune, and as Fiona says, of course they can. Dreams are real. Ice King goes, then I will what does he say? Then I will
I think he said,
wait for you
on the
from
other side of
across the threshold of consciousness, which again, kind of across the threshold of consciousness is sort of, I mean, the portal to Ice King's mind.
So correct. Yeah. And this one, that's
awesome.
It makes me so excited about, because like I'm watching that last scene of this episode.
Yeah.
And you see one of the executive producers on it is Adam Muto, who did all of Fiona and Cake as well. So, and then the last thing that I don't have it word for word, but the last thing that Ice King says is like, I know this is going, like, I don't care how long I'll wait, but like, this is going to be true. Like this, that you are true and this is true. And so I think it was Adam Muto having the idea that Fiona and Cake was a universe inside the Ice King's mind. And I think this episode really would go back and prove that.
It'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Neptune finally said, like, the response that Neptune has is, our worlds will surely meet, Ice King, which, that's so cool.
It's just, and it took all the way until 2023 to happen, too, which is just wild. It's so crazy and so wild.
And the truth is, though, chances are they weren't even thinking about this episode. But if they were, that would be really awesome. This would be the thing to ask Adam Muto about if we ever are fortunate enough to have him on the podcast for some reason.
I would assume, like I'd love to get Adam Muto on the podcast, because I think he would offer some clarity with things that he wanted to do with Fiona and Cake in the original series. When did they have to abandon it? Because you can assume that, like, I'm assuming that the last line delivered in kind of this last Imagination Land sequence was Adam Muto going, okay, we're going to have a somewhat of a Fiona and Cake explainer. And maybe it just ended up getting too complex, where they were like, okay, if we have to have Prismo and multiverses and Fiona and Cake and Finn and Jake all kind of as part of this, then I can't really do this as a, he's either going to have to do what they did with Marceline, what they did with Islands and Finn, and what they did with Elementals, is doing an 8-episode miniseries. And I think maybe Cartoon Network was like, bro, you got to wrap this up. Like, we can't do another half season of your miniseries on just wrapping up one loose end, essentially.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, shoot, Fiona Cake's 2 seasons now. They finally got announced for a second season, which is really, really exciting. So we'll see. I have no idea where the Fiona and Cake fan fiction it's not fan fiction anymore.
It's not fan fiction. Now they are part of the canonical timeline now. So
for sure. Now, do you have any other deeper thoughts for this episode? I feel like we kind of blew through this one, but it was a pretty simple episode.
It was a good simple one with a lot of little scenes. And again, part of our podcast with Adventure Time, we've listened to quote unquote competitor podcasts. But I never want to go through and just be like, here's this scene, isn't this funny? Here's this scene, isn't this funny? But the concept of this episode, I think, is not necessarily even a deeper thought, but something I wanted to kind of like stop for a moment on and being like, okay, have you ever seen, I know you're not a horror movie person. There's a 1997 version, and then there's a 2001 version of the movie Cube. Have you ever seen that?
No, you mentioned Cube earlier. I can only assume it has something to do with going in a room and then not being able to go backwards or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So the concept is like these people, again, like wake up in a room, and it's like a straight up cube room. And then there's like 4 walls, and in the ceiling each have a hole in it. So like, now it's like a gore porn torture movie where to get out of each room, somebody's either going to have to do something like somewhat gruesome, or there's like poison gas, or there's saws, or there's lasers. And I think I don't think I've seen maybe I've only seen the 97 version. I haven't seen the new one. But it's like kind of each person's past and each person's history. You slowly get to learn about that through the movie. And the psychological aspect of it is like, well, none of those people like know each other. So are they like, are you the one that put us here? Do you know more? And then during those movies, like somebody will say something in like the third room, and they'll be like, holy shit, you know something that you're not telling us about why we're all here, or who you are, or, oh, you know this doctor guy and you knew him from, years ago. And that kind of psychological, we're trapped and not trusting anybody. We're going through to all get out, quote unquote, together, but we're all kind of against each other, is also in the Saw movies. And I just watched the new Saw 10, which was pretty decent, actually.
Dude, I haven't seen any of these movies.
Yeah.
But I could definitely imagine the paranoia of being in a cube and feeling like, someone in that cube might be out to get you, or like the one that puts you there. I mean, I kind of jokingly would say that like there's a creepy aspect even to escape rooms when you're paying to go into an escape room and be, not really locked, but locked in a room and forced to solve puzzles in order to get out. There's definitely a small part of me that can't help but very like sarcastically joke
that like,
with
yeah, somebody knows something.
Well, yeah, or just like that the person that works there that's blocking you into the room, I can't help myself but kind of like make creepy, sarcastic jokes about like, oh, you're not going to really lock us in, are you? Like stupid stuff like that. There's definitely a level of like, I don't know. So I couldn't imagine the cube scenario, but I do love how in this episode, at least, Ice King tries, and I'm sure this happens in the cube movie, but Ice King tries his best, I guess, to throw everybody off. Like he's like, isn't it weird how Tree Trunks' pie making was perfect for helping us escape from that room? Like he totally like tries to throw a little like, oh, it's not me. I'm discovering this as we go. It's so weird that everybody's perfectly fit for each one of these rooms.
It's like it's whoever well, not what's the phrase? There's a phrase behind it. It's not whoever smelt it dealt it, but like the fact that he's the one that brings up, isn't this ironic? Is to like lure them off his scent that he's the one that like orchestrates this all. So, but I don't know. I would say it's not my recommendation because trust me, those movies are not for everybody at all. But I think it's really cool. Again, they kind of took that concept, except for a little bit of the reverse of that. A little bit, and that's why I think it's actually kind of funny that Tree Trunks is messing up everybody's names, right? So we know all these characters. We've seen all those one-on-ones. And this episode is really bringing it into the full frame that, yes, all these characters do live in the same universe, that Tree Trunks is at least like vaguely aware of who they are. She calls them nectar, ice cream, and lemon carb. And then she even says one of the lemon carbs. So she's aware that there are 2 lemon grabs at this point. So I thought that was kind of cool. It does introduce a similar mentality of the Cube and the Saw movies that like these people are kind of familiar. I may have met them before, but I don't really know who they are. I don't really know if I trust anybody here. Yeah. Except for it does sound like Shelby and Tree Trunks have hung out a good bit at the end of the day. Yeah.
I do have one more qualm with this episode. And of course, this is entirely because it's a cartoon. So that's the answer here. But who's keeping that fish alive in the steaming room? What, you got that chain chomp fish that's tied up to the drain plug, and that thing's huge. Like, who's feeding that thing constantly?
I'd assume if you have magical dungeons. But like then every time we go into any dungeon in Adventure Time, it's gonna be like,
true.
Well, who's feeding the bucket knight down in the dungeon?
Or any of those creatures. But see, at least in that dungeon there were a ton of creatures, and this one there's just I guess. But I guess the reason I say that is because he's chained up. It's not like how that other monster that gets the lemon juiced into his eyes, he gets exploded, but he had like the ability to roam around the room and maybe leave that room and go to other rooms or whatever. But that fish was chained up, and that's why I brought it up. But it is pretty dumb. I get it. It's a cartoon,
Just Russell was like, I don't like this episode that much. I'm going to give it all the qualms.
No, I like this episode because I like dungeon crawler episodes. I don't like dungeon crawler games, but I like dungeon crawler episodes. And so I can't help but kind of enjoy this one, even with some characters I don't much care for. But Neptune, I feel bad. Everybody forgot about him. I kind of forgot about him. Maybe he's coming around on me a little bit. It could be his cool new mods. But I might be coming around on him.
Yeah. No, he keeps having like, he's never not had a redeeming arc. He's always been like sweet little Neptune. But cool that he's like a lot more helpful. I don't know. He did get turned into a fireproof suit and hot to touch, Yeah,
but I just never liked, even in hot to touch or too hot to touch, whatever it's called. Even then, I didn't like Neptune very much. So
yeah.
I just feel like I've been a little harsh on him, and maybe that's my first lesson this episode is that I should be a little less harsh on Neptune and accept him I mean, he is the never-ending pie throwing robot, as we are the never-ending adventure podcast. I mean,
closest to our name that we're going to get in the show.
For sure.
But I would say, like, even the takeaway, because like I said, we haven't had a dungeon crawler since Dad's Dungeon. And a good dungeon crawler episode is needed for sure every once in a while. But I think this one is a really cool dynamic just in the sheer fact that we are in season 5. We've got really well-developed characters. We brought up 3 episodes ago that there are A-list characters, B-list characters, C-list characters. But we've had enough. These are our B-list characters. We've had enough character development with them to where I think even like this point in season 5 going, hey, guess what? Like, we've got so much content that we can create. We can do an episode full of B-list characters. You know them well enough to where they can just create hilarious, ridiculous dialogue, like all of Tree Trunk's isms, all of Lemon Grab isms, but we don't have to like explain it. It can just be absolutely absurd. And the viewers, us, get to like watch it and be like, that's hilarious. Because that fits all of those characters, like
we're so familiar
character
with
traits.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, Ned, what else are you learning from this? I mean, I've said one of my lessons. I have one more, but do you have any lessons for us?
I honestly, man, I don't know if I had a true lesson. Because but like, I guess it's kind of, I was like trying to dig deep on it. Something about the Ice King, again, like not living in reality and like having the expectation that Fiona and Cake was going to come to life because he threw a book into the life-giving thing. Yeah. And I don't know. I think I was just like, when you have selfish aspirations that like don't put high expectations that there's going to be a quick and easy fix to it, you know?
Yeah, I just feel like he feels that they're so real that's why he wanted them to come to life. And that's why I love Allie's theory so much, is because it's like he just knows in his mind that they're real and they need to be like part of the canon, part of his universe. And so maybe this is a way that he can do it without knowing that that's what he's doing. It's such a neat idea for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. I think it's just like he puts all these, he's willing to kill Shelby and put all these other people at detriment in order to fulfill his like pipe dream wish of something that he probably well and should have known may or may not work, you know? So that's kind of maybe that's the kind of thing, is like, don't put other people at risk for your own pipe dreams. That's probably the deeper lesson behind it all.
Okay, man, Shelby's pretty awesome for outsmarting everybody or outthinking that moment. I gotta say,
Shelby
really
didn't do anything in that dungeon whatsoever.
Shelby was supposed to be the bait.
Do you have any deeper thoughts?
That's stupid.
Do you have any deeper thoughts? Man, the deep thought was, or lessons per se.
Dude, super deep thought here. This is my second lesson, my last lesson of this episode. Pies save lives, and I love pies, man. I love pies.
On multiple occasions. What's your favorite pie?
Favorite pie, easy, apple pie, without a doubt.
Okay, now, I think that's the easy answer. So
it's the right answer. That's the thing. It's like, it's the only right answer for your favorite pie. I mean, you could go, hey, key lime is really, really great, and that's probably number 2. But maybe number 2 is pumpkin pie. Outside of that, you're nuts. I'm sorry if you like cherry pies, you're insane.
You are correct. Though. That. Outside of that, I am nuts, because my toss up for number 1 is between apple and pecan pie.
Pecan pie is maybe a top 5 pie, but Ned, number 1.
Yeah. Okay. You are correct that the number 1, I would eat an apple pie by itself. It's better with ice cream. Not super often would I eat a pecan pie without whipped cream or icing, or ice cream, because that's kind of a necessity for like balancing out over the sticky sugar. So yeah, you are like, in its essence, no extra toppings on the side. Apple pie is the best.
I'm a pie connoisseur. I mean, I dabble, I guess really is what I should say. I dabble in pies, and apple pie.
I think pie saves lives, because why in the world is anybody buying birthday cakes in general, unless it's like triple down chocolate cake?
Yeah.
Pies are better than cakes across the board.
Dude, that was my birthdays when I was a kid. I always did pie instead of cake. And here's the thing too.
Better.
Again, I'm just hate on cherry pie people. Blueberry pie is way better than cherry pie, and I would even say it's better than pecan pie, pie, whatever.
Flip it. Blueberry pie, no. Blueberry cobbler.
Blueberry, oh yeah.
It's got to be a cobbler for me because it's got to have the bread to blueberry ratio there. Yeah, it's got.
Here's the other thing, dude.
It's like a Bo-berry biscuit at that point too. Like Bo-berry biscuits are the shit. Like,
dude, chicken pot pie is better than cherry pie. Get out of here,
yeah,
cherry
it is.
pie.
No, cherry pie is the lowest of the low in terms of pie. Honestly, for me, I've never had a good pumpkin pie, so that's why I disagree with you.
Oh, I love pumpkin pie, but if chicken pot pie counts as pie, then that's number 2 after apple pie. That's so stupid. Can we stop this conversation and go to a traveler's log?
We may not get another Nectar episode or Tree Trunks episode where we get to talk about pie.
Okay,
again,
so we should talk about pies.
We'll get one. It just may not be for a while. So
okay, well, I love pumpkin pie because it just reminds me of my favorite time of the year, which is November, and it's good. They taste great. So
yeah.
But freaking, does a quiche count as a pie? Because then I'm going apple pie, chicken pot pie, quiche, pumpkin pie, key lime pie, which apparently key limes come from the Florida Keys. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I learned that this year. Blew my mind.
Have you ever had a meat pie? Like, there was an old restaurant in Athens, and they're basically a cross between a chicken pot pie and an empanada, and they're super good. So if
meat pie sounds like a shepherd's pie, and I don't think shepherd's pie is nearly as good as quiche or pie. Obviously,
a shepherd's pie wouldn't make it in the category for me because it doesn't have a bottom crust.
Yeah, there's no crust.
Bottom.
You're right.
But
it's
a
just
meat pie
potatoes
is basically like you cross like what I guess it's either Spanish or Portuguese for like what they're doing with empanadas. Cross that with like cooking it and preparing it like a chicken pot pie.
This is so stupid.
It's full. Dude, this is exactly what I want to tangent on
this is what people come to this podcast for. I got a traveler's log, Ned. We got to do it.
Well, we need a new traveler's log. Give us your pie arguments. What's on the list? What's not? And like make your arguments for or against chicken pot pie. Make your arguments for or against meat pies. For or against empanadas. I want to hear it all.
Hey, you better believe in the Patreon's Discord, we're for sure going to be talking about pies.
Yes,
when this episode comes out, pies are the topic of conversation. So a traveler's log this week, there we go. I had to restart my computer. So it's talking about meat pies. This traveler's log is all about beef, Ned.
All about beef with us?
Yeah, beef with us. Corey.
Oh, no.
Corey has beef with us. DJ Toki, I think his name is. Toki. He says, "Hey guys, I just started listening to the podcast last week, and I'm now on episode 110, which is crazy. That's wild.
In a week? Holy shit.
Yeah, that's Corey. Are you good, bud? Are you all right?
That we're on. I'd give our median average probably 56 minutes, 52 minutes on.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Corey sent this in October, so he's definitely listening to this episode when it comes out. Are you okay? If you need to talk to somebody."
Podcasting.
Yeah, I don't know about us, but talk to someone, man. That's okay.
I said the only reason I could imagine that you can get through that much podcast is if you're like an ice road trucker or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah, Corey, the ice road trucker, is writing in. No, sorry, Corey, you're cool. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast and loving what we're doing. That's so sick.
We're just yucking your yums at this point.
Yeah, dude, stop yucking his yums, man. That's gross. I guess I am too. You can keep. He said, and I guess this is in reference to Ned. So you keep referring to Ice King as an elemental, and that's just not true. I know
we've heard this before.
Did we? I don't think we talked about it.
Yes,
did we talk about it?
We've had multiple travelers log because I was referring to Ice King as the Ice Elemental.
Okay.
I know about Patient St. Pim.
And he never got reincarnated or something, according to Corey.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I messed that up in several different podcasts. And you guys called me on it. I get it. But if you think about it as more of a Star Wars based mentality where everything, the Force has to be balanced, that Ice King is the stand-in pseudo elemental to balance out the fact that we have no Patient St. Pim right now. So
okay.
not a true
apparently
elemental.
The Flame King is also not an elemental, I don't think.
Really?
Well, hold on. I just closed this thing.
That one I've never gone into like super deep Flame King lore.
Well, okay, here's what he says.
Yeah.
Let me just finish this then. Says, let's see, I know we're not to the Elemental miniseries yet, but as Ned should know, sorry, Ned, there are 4...
I told you, I admitted I messed it up.
I know. There are 4 elementals that are reincarnated. Since the Ice Elemental never died, they could not have been reincarnated as the Ice King. As such, the Flame King is also not an elemental. Much love, DJ Toki.
So who is the flame? When we get to elementals, the Flame Princess is the Flame Elemental, but like she is of the Flame King.
I don't know.
I guess there's, in my opinion, the Flame one's probably weird because they probably like, again, it's fire. So like fire catches other things on fire. Who knows how it's been passed down or reincarnated or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I don't think I would have a clear answer for. But yes, the Ice King one I messed up on. But I would just chalk it up to
calling that out, y'all.
Yeah. Well, trust me, guys. I'm an Adventure Time expert, but I'm not I'm on like Reddit threads every day studying the lore or everything.
Dude, get on those threads, baby. Get on those threads.
To my argument against people, again, why I said that is like, yes, if there wasn't a reincarnation, Ice King's not the true ice elemental, but in a world that needs the balance of the 4 elements, if I'm trying not to spoil this for you, Russell, at all. That's why it's hard to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be like a balance of the nature of the 4 elements. And so if the ice elemental is kind of, I'll just say put away for right now, there has to be a balancing out of the 4 elements. And again, that's the Flame King may not be a fire elemental, but he's the Flame King. He's the core fire leader per se,
Well, hey, talking about balancing of the elements, I'll just say this episode definitely confirms without a doubt in my mind that Ice King could never take down the Flame King because of Pokemon rules and because of the Steamy Room when he couldn't use his powers or even fly in the Steamy Room. So, yeah, I don't know. That's interesting in my mind.
Yeah. I want to know if they have somebody done a breakdown of like elements from Adventure Time, which is fire, ice, candy, and slime. What beats everything? Does slime beat fire beats ice beats candy beats slime? Like what's the triad or the quadrad?
I don't know. Candy could be slime
weakness.
In my mind.
No, not this
not this type of slime.
Not the slime princess's slime.
We're talking about muck.
We're talking about like muck,
slime.
like boogers.
All right. Well, I'm ready for us to go to the next part of this, Ned, which is
the next part of this.
What?
I said we're moving on because I made mistakes, guys. I'm not perfect.
Dog, you're good. You're so good. You didn't make a mistake on, Ned. The Patreon podcast. It's been freaking awesome. NEA and beyond. We're about to release episode 9 this week as we're recording this, and then episode 10 will be out in no time here. It's already recorded. So we're 10 episodes deep into another podcast, which starts out, the first episode is about Adventure Time. And then thereafter, like we just recorded one on what would our villain arcs be in our life as we look back on the different moments in our lives, such as like my pacifiers being thrown to the beavers when I was 2 years old in front of my very eyes. Or maybe I had to throw them. I can't entirely recall. But that might have been like a moment. So we're talking about our villain arcs, and we chose not to become villains, or at least we're tricking y'all into thinking we're not villains.
The fun part about that episode is we went and said, Russell was like, the theme is villain arcs, and both of us took that 2 different ways. So we have a fun conversation about what our definition of an episode about villain arcs means.
Yeah, and if you sign up for the Patreon, man, I mean, you are helping us fund and pay for this podcast, which we could not be more appreciative of. I mean, even $1 tiers get access to the Discord. They don't get the podcast for the Patreon. But if we had enough people doing the $1 tier, we could even pay for the podcast itself. It would be a lot more than the $5 or $10 tier. Regardless, thank you all for everyone who has signed up. And please, if you're interested, maybe this could be the holiday gift to give. I don't know how that would even happen. The patreon.com/neverending adventure podcast. You can check us out on Instagram at Neverending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Neverending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast. I have not tweeted in lifetime. Maybe I should say X.
Yeah,
X at NEA
the TikTok's been
podcast.
a little bit silent. I'd say the best for comms, for screenshots, for everything. We do post a lot on Instagram because it's it's similar to the Discord. It's everybody who's like very much kind of watching through the podcast. And
Instagram's the place to be, if not the Discord. The Discord is it's just so cool and so personal over there. Maybe we should just keep it how small it is and no one sign up. Anyways, I'm being ridiculous. Thank y'all so much, everybody who has. And email us your thoughts, your opinions, get on the Traveler's Log, call us out. But don't call us out on the elementals thing. It's been done. It's happened.
I can't talk about it. I can't defend myself more without spoiling it for Russell. So you guys keep bringing up stuff. I have thoughts. I've got my opinions. I just can't spoil anymore for Russell either.
Oh, it's all good. I'm beefing right now with sugar. I'm beefing with how much freaking added sugars and everything. Why is there?
I thought you meant you were beefing with Rebecca Sugar for some reason.
Oh no, not at all. I'm drinking a Coke to stay caffeinated and active during this podcast, and I can't for the life of me understand why 78% and why there is a percentage for my daily added sugar. That shouldn't be a thing, but 78% of my daily added sugar came out of this one can of Coke, and it saddens me.
Yeah,
that I just drank
Coke,
it.
It tastes delicious. It's absolutely terrible for you, and it is.
Horrible.
That is a recommendation also made uneducatedly to sell more sugar in the United States. I can guarantee you that's more added sugar than you're supposed to eat in a day.
Dude, there's no added sugar percentage, right? Like that's the thing about added sugar. Sorry, this is a rant that I could go down easily, but it's like.
I was going to ask you, do you have a rec for this week, or do you have more of an anti-rec, which is added sugar?
Well, definitely my anti-rec is like, watch your added sugar, man. It's in everything. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be added sugar. Natural sugars make sense. Natural sugars is not an added sugar, I don't think. So just watch out for those percentages. My real ret, though, is without a shadow of a doubt, the Nutcracker. I may have read this in the past, and I apologize if I did. Me and Ned went last year. Yeah, so maybe we wrecked it then. But I went last night with Allie and two of our friends, and it was super fun. And that was the first time Allie got to watch it from the audience instead of working backstage. Nice. So yeah, it was just really cool, and I highly recommend going and supporting the arts and the Nutcracker.
Nice, yeah, no, it was a blast last year. I don't think I hadn't seen the Nutcracker since I was like a kid until then.
Yeah. Now, what's your
recommendation? Yeah, well, it comes in a larger package of recommendations, but last night we actually had a wine night with our friends. And we have what me and my buddy call ourselves the wine night commissioners. We actually do it. We've been on pace to do it like twice a year at this point. This was like the third official one. But we created a theme where like everybody had to bring a bottle to compete, but that bottle had to be signed by the wine store owner or the som that picked it out for you or helped you pick it out. It had to be signed. So each bottle was very, again, picked out like deliberately. And you couldn't just go to the grocery store and like pick up a bottle of $2 Chuck and bring it to the party. But so my recommendation is hosted events with friends that have like a theme. So whether it's like Friendsgivings, whether it's wine nights, but like doing something where it's not around a sport. It's not around like, I guess a sport in general. It's not just going to the bar with your friends, but like the fact that we had a fun hosted night where the theme was you being bougie when we shouldn't be bougie or that kind of stuff. It's just really great, man.
And we touched about TNDC on this before,
TNDC
which that was kind of the same idea. And I think, but I think that's a great rec. I really do. It's so fun to just add another element to things like that.
Yeah. Add an element like friends gatherings with elements of just like, let's do something besides like watch a sport or just drink too,
Yeah, of course. Well, hey, man, that's great. Thank you so much, everybody. Freaking another cool episode. I enjoyed it. Not one of my favorites, but I also didn't not like it by any means. I'd give it a
it's a fun one.
3.5 pies out of 5.
I was gonna say 3.5 dead pies and dead mouse pies.
Oh gosh, did you see freaking his teeth, dude? Lemongrad's teeth when he opened his mouth.
We didn't talk about the jaw getting unhinged off of Lemongrad.
Wild. Anyways, party forever.
All right, love you guys.